Suddenly, he slapped me across the face. The sound of the slap echoed in the quiet room. My cheek stung, not just from the pain but also from the humiliation of being hit by someone I trusted and loved. Ryan's eyes were full of anger as he stormed out of the house, leaving me shocked and heartbroken. In that moment, I knew his violence and betrayal had changed everything. My name is Jessica Adams, and I'm 24 years old. I had been in a 6-year relationship with a man I thought was my soulmate, Ryan Miller, who was 25. We got engaged in April 2024, and I was overjoyed, imagining a future full of love and happiness. Our wedding was planned for May 2025, on the anniversary of when we first met. Back then, I thought everything in my life was falling into place, but I didn't know heartbreak was just around the corner. In July 2024, I excitedly began planning our wedding. I picked a light blue and white theme for our spring ceremony and spent hours looking at ideas on Pinterest. I researched caterers, florists, and venues and shared my ideas with Ryan. His responses were always brief and uninterested, things like looks good or just a thumbs up emoji. I told myself he was busy with work and wanted me to design my dream wedding, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Ryan's lack of involvement wasn't just about the wedding. His mother, Karen Miller, was always a big part of our relationship. Ryan was an only child, and Karen had always been deeply involved in his life. At first, I thought their closeness showed how much he cared about family, but over time, I felt smothered by her influence. Ryan called her multiple times a day for advice about everything, even decisions that should have been just between us. He'd often talk to her before consulting me, making me feel like an outsider in my own relationship. I kept hoping it would get better after we got married. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks ago, I had a day I'd been looking forward to for years, wedding dress shopping with my mom and sister. It was supposed to be magical, a memory to cherish forever. We visited several boutiques and tried on many dresses until I found the one. It was an elegant, timeless gown that made me feel like a princess. Tears filled my eyes as I pictured myself walking down the aisle. My mom and sister were thrilled and said I looked beautiful. I couldn't wait to share this moment with Ryan. I sent him a picture of me in the dress, hoping he'd feel the same excitement. He replied, "It looks beautiful." For a moment, I felt happy, but as I returned home that evening, still basking in the happiness of finding my dream dress, I was blindsided by an entirely different reality. Karen, my future mother-in-law, had let herself into our house using the spare key we had given her for emergencies. She was sitting on the couch, her face contorted with anger. The moment I walked in, the joyful anticipation I had felt earlier evaporated. Karen stood up abruptly, her voice sharp and accusatory. "You lied to me," she shouted. I froze, taken aback, confused. I asked what she was talking about. She launched into a tirade, claiming that I had promised years ago to wear her old wedding dress, a dress that looked more like an artifact than something suitable for a modern bride. I was stunned. I had no memory of making such a promise, and even if I had made a polite comment in passing, it certainly wasn't a binding agreement. Karen, however, wasn't interested in hearing my side. She called me a liar and said I didn't deserve to marry her son. Her words cut deeply, leaving me standing there, shocked and hurt. Desperately, I glanced around, hoping Ryan would step in and defend me, but he was nowhere to be found. I tried to reason with Karen, explaining that this was my wedding and I had chosen a dress that made me feel beautiful, but she refused to listen. Her voice grew louder, her accusations sharper. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I retreated to my room, humiliated and defeated, closing the door behind me in an attempt to block out her shouting. After what felt like an eternity, I finally heard the front door slam. Moments later, Ryan came into our room, his expression calm and casual as if nothing had happened. "Why is my mom so upset?" he asked, as though her shouting hadn't echoed through the entire house. I stared at him in disbelief, summoning all my frustration and hurt. I recounted the confrontation, hoping he would take my side, comfort me, or at least understand how hurtful his mother's words had been, but instead, he sighed and began defending her. Ryan claimed that when we first started dating 6 years ago, I had admired his mother's dress and said I'd love to wear it. Maybe I had made a polite comment at the time, but a passing remark was far from a promise. Yet he insisted that I was being unreasonable, adding that his mother had every right to feel hurt. His words felt like a betrayal. That night, I lay in bed with tears stinging my eyes, feeling completely alone. The person I had loved and trusted for 6 years was defending his mother instead of standing by me. My heart ached with disappointment, and for the first time, I began to question everything about our relationship. That night, I lay in bed replaying the argument, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. The man I loved and trusted for 6 years had taken his mother's side, even though she was clearly in the wrong. I couldn't sleep, tossing and turning as a wave of heartbreak washed over me. I thought about all the sacrifices I had made and how often I put his family's needs before mine. For what? To feel like an outsider in my own relationship? The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages from Karen. Each text was cruel, filled with accusations and insults. She called me selfish and ungrateful, saying I wasn't good enough to marry her son. My eyes stung with tears as I read her hateful words. I couldn't believe someone I had tried so hard to please could turn on me like this. I showed the messages to Ryan, hoping he would defend me and realize how cruel his mother was being, but instead, he brushed it off. "She's probably just upset that you don't want to wear her dress," he said, dismissing it. "Just give her some time to calm down." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Karen wasn't just upset, she was actively trying to ruin our engagement and make me look like the bad guy. I was angry and frustrated. This wasn't just about the dress anymore, it was about respect and support. I wanted a partner who would stand up for me, someone who put our relationship first. It was becoming painfully clear that Ryan wasn't that partner. I tried to make him understand. I explained that it was our wedding, and I deserved to feel beautiful and comfortable in the dress I chose. I even suggested compromises, wearing a piece of Karen's jewelry or using some fabric from her dress in my veil. But nothing was enough. Ryan insisted I wear her dress or risk being ungrateful. For him and his mother, it was all or nothing, and I felt like there was no room for me in their plans. The days that followed were tense and full of arguments. Karen kept sending nasty messages and even reached out to my friends to turn them against me. Ryan did nothing to stop her. If anything, he seemed to agree with her more and more, making me feel like I was the problem. I started questioning myself, wondering if I was crazy for wanting to wear my own wedding dress. Then came the moment that broke everything. The tension between Ryan and me had reached its peak, and I knew we needed to have a serious conversation. I waited until he got home one evening, determined to make him understand how hurt and unsupported I felt. We sat in the living room, and I poured out my heart. I told him how his mother's constant interference was ruining our relationship and reminded him that this wedding was supposed to be about us, not a chance for his mother to relive her past. But instead of listening, Ryan got defensive. "You're overreacting," he snapped. "This is about family. The wedding isn't just for us, it's for them too." His words felt like a slap in the face. It was clear his loyalty to his mother ran far deeper than his commitment to me. I tried to stay calm, but the frustration inside me finally boiled over. I asked him, "Ryan, are you marrying me or your mother? Because it feels like you're more committed to her than to us." My question made him furious. His face twisted in anger, and he started shouting, accusing me of being selfish and making a big deal out of nothing. My heart broke again. I told him I was reconsidering our engagement and couldn't marry someone who wouldn't stand up for me. He dismissed my concerns, acting as if I was just throwing a tantrum. His indifference hurt deeply. I tried to walk away to end the argument, but things took a terrible turn. Ryan grabbed my arm, spun me around, and slapped me across the face. The slap was shocking, leaving my cheek burning and my heart shattered. I couldn't believe he had hit me. The man I thought I'd spend my life with had turned violent. Tears filled my eyes as I stood there, stunned, while he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him. Once again, he ran to his mother's side. I felt broken and numb. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional devastation. That moment was the final straw. I knew I had to protect myself. I called my sister, Lauren, who came over immediately. When she saw the red mark on my cheek, she was horrified. Her eyes burned with anger and concern as she hugged me tightly. "You're coming with me," she said firmly. Together, we packed a bag. I couldn't stay in that house any longer. My relationship with Ryan was over, and I needed to make sure he couldn't hurt me again. Leaving the house was both heartbreaking and freeing. The next morning, with Lauren by my side, I went to the police station and filed for a restraining order against Ryan. I provided photos of the mark on my cheek and messages from Karen that showed the toxic behavior I had endured. It was empowering but heartbreaking. Taking these steps against someone I once loved felt surreal, but I knew it was the right thing to do. After filing the paperwork, I began the painful process of canceling the wedding. I called the venue and explained the situation. To my surprise, they were understanding and let me transfer the deposit to another event. I decided to use it for an early birthday party, a celebration of my freedom and strength. Not everything went smoothly. The caterer refused to refund my deposit, and I lost some money, but at that point, I was just relieved to be free from the wedding drama. The engagement ring, which once symbolized hope, now felt like a heavy burden. Ryan refused to take it back, saying it was a gift. I didn't want to keep it, so I sold it and donated the money to a domestic violence shelter. It was a small way to turn something painful into something meaningful, giving me a sense of closure. Even with the restraining order, Karen wasn't done. She started spreading lies about me on social media, trying to ruin my reputation. Karen did everything she could to spread lies about me. She called me a selfish, ungrateful bride who had broken her son's heart. She even contacted some of my family members, hoping they'd take her side, but my family and true friends saw through her manipulations and supported me. It was comforting to know I had people who believed in me and stood by my decision. Ryan, on the other hand, was a mess. He went back and forth between begging for forgiveness and blaming me for everything. One evening, he showed up unannounced at my new apartment, crying and pleading for me to take him back. Seeing him, once so familiar but now so unwelcome, made my skin crawl. I had to threaten to call the police before he finally left. That moment only strengthened my resolve. I was never going back. To move forward and find peace, I leaned heavily on my support system. My parents, furious when they learned the full story, helped me move the last of my belongings out of the apartment I had shared with Ryan. They even offered to cover any legal fees I might need, reminding me I wasn't alone. Some of my friends were incredibly supportive, but a few didn't understand why I hadn't just worn the dress to keep the peace. Those friendships became strained, but I realized it was for the best. This experience had shown me who my true friends were. As the weeks went by, I started to rebuild my life. The early birthday party I threw at what would have been my wedding venue turned into a beautiful celebration. I was surrounded by people who genuinely loved and supported me. That day was filled with laughter, dancing, and a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't about the pain that had led up to it, it was about the healing and joy that followed. Lauren and I also made the most of what was supposed to be my honeymoon trip. We traveled to Paris, a city I'd always dreamed of visiting, and turned it into an unforgettable sister adventure. We explored the streets, enjoyed delicious French food, and shared deep conversations that brought me comfort. It wasn't the romantic escape I had once imagined, but it was exactly what I needed, a trip filled with love and resilience in a different but meaningful way. When I got back home, I focused on healing. I started going to therapy to unpack the emotional scars from my relationship with Ryan. It was tough to face the red flags I had ignored and the compromises I had made, but it was an important step in moving forward. Therapy was a crucial part of my healing process. Each session helped me understand myself better, rebuild my self-worth, and recognize the importance of setting boundaries. I learned to trust my instincts and vowed never to settle for anything less than respect and love. Over time, Ryan and Karen faded into the background of my life. The restraining order and mutual no-contact agreement brought a sense of peace. Ryan's desperate attempts to win me back stopped, and Karen's smear campaign lost momentum as people saw the truth. One surprising moment of closure came when Ryan's father reached out to apologize for everything. He admitted he understood my decision and wished me the best, a small but meaningful gesture. My family and true friends remained my foundation throughout this journey. My parents, furious about what I had endured, supported me unconditionally. Most of my friends rallied around me, showing their love in ways I'll never forget. Those who didn't understand my stand drifted away, but that was part of my healing too. I learned to surround myself with people who lifted me up. Selling the engagement ring and donating the proceeds to a domestic violence shelter was one of the most empowering decisions I made. It turned a painful reminder into an opportunity to help others. People often ask if I have regrets. The truth is, I don't. This experience, painful as it was, taught me invaluable lessons about self-respect, trust, and the kind of love I deserve. I'm not ready to date again yet, but when I am, I'll approach relationships with clarity and confidence. I won't ignore red flags or compromise my well-being. For now, I'm focused on myself, rediscovering hobbies I'd put on hold, spending quality time with loved ones, and embracing who I am outside of a relationship. I'm stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. For the first time in a long time, I feel genuinely hopeful about the future. Thank you for joining me on this emotional journey. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Your support means the world to me, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What stood out to you, moved you, or left you thinking? Together, We can share stories that empower and inspire.